Joe, it's just a pleasure, man. Thanks for taking the time out to speak with me this morning for our Let Me Tell You About It feature. I've got kind of a crazy question for you to start out. Um, if you were limited, if someone says, okay, all your drums go away, but we could bring back one piece and you have to do the gig, what piece would you choose?
Oh, Greg, that's a softball, man.
I do it. Indeed. Indeed.
Ride cymbal right here. I heard. I remember Ray Brown was saying that he would put lie his bass down, um, like in the doorway of his bedroom. So anytime he woke up or whatever, he would have to pick up his bass to get outside the room.
Okay.
No matter what happened during that day, how
Mhm.
busy he was, he had the bass in his hands.
Mhm.
So I always thought about that. So I had this ride cymbal next to my dinner table. You have a little breakfast and coffee. So I sit, I have to see it. I have to touch it. So this would be it, man. This is what got me into the music. The ride cymbal, Kenny Clark, Art
Mhm.
Taylor, Philly Joe Jones, Tootie Heath, Art Blakey, all of them.
Mhm. Mhm. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I knew that was gonna be your answer, man, but I just had to get you to talk
Yeah.
about that. That
Mhm.
cymbal beat, man. It's magical. And it's funny, like this summer or last summer, when I was watching your series on the great masters that you interacted with, one guy, it just kept resonating for me. Art Taylor, Art Taylor, Art Taylor. And it was awesome to hear that you got to interact with him and study with him, man. Can you tell me how you first came into contact with AT? And are there any stories that you could really share about him? I've always wanted to know more about him. I got to the scene a little too late, but he's one of my favorites, man. It's amazing that you got to spend time with him.
Right. Well, I mean, I used to love the Red Garland Trio, man, especially Red's Garland, Red of Garland, and what's the record? Blue. It's a Blue World.
Yeah.
Play that all day long, man. If you get that feeling, and then of course, Giant Steps. I mean, that's like a no-brainer. But like his other records, AT's Delight, when he plays
Mm-hmm.
the song flute now with PC and Wynton Kelly.
Woo.
I mean, to me, that to me was what was the greatest for me, man. And it's Kenny Clark. I mean, you can't beat him, Philly Joe Jones. But there's something that spoke to me about the way he played that cymbal beat.
Yes, sir.
I went to college in 1986, and I was looking through. I used to spend the weekends with my brother, and I was looking through the the phone book of the union, musicians union, and
Okay.
everyone's phone number in there. Man, from A to Z, it could be like Albert Eiler, and then it could be like Benny Golson, Kurt Fuller. You just kept going, and I would call everybody, man, and Jackson, Horace Silver, or sometimes they hang up on you. Sometimes they wouldn't pick up the phone. I had some great conversations, man. Like I was just 18 years old. It'd be like Saturday night, like 10 o'clock at night, and then this is way before cell phones.
Wow.
I met Al Foster, man, and then I got to Art Taylor. I just wasn't. Edith, I wasn't thinking that Art Taylor was right next to me, up in Sugar Hill. And man, I called him, and 3 days later, I was at his house apartment. I'm
Whoa.
like, and he lives in Sugar Hill, St. Nick's, maybe 153rd, somewhere in there. And I got lost going up there, and my lesson was at 3 o'clock, and I walked down the hallway at 3 o'clock, man. I made it. And he put his head out and he said, Farnsworth? I said, yeah. And he says, man, I learned from Dexter Gordon. If you're not in time, you can't play in time. So it was like a boom right from the get-go. And we got in there, and Greg, man, we sat down and we were just listening to Sarah Vaughan. It was like he was just he was laying the groundwork. I didn't know what he was doing. So I was a nervous wreck. I was like, I can't believe this is Art Taylor. I had no idea what I was getting into, but he was just listening to Sarah Vaughan and the importance of lyrics and, oh, listen to the way she was phrasing. And I never noticed that, but he the way he talked, man, was like almost like Sarah in a way. It was like it was sassy, but it had this bottom to it. And he loved her, and that was his personality. If you think of ways Sarah Vaughan speaks, that's the way Arthur Taylor kind of reminded me of that. He had this thing, and I was really taken aback by it, man. And then after that, we started listening to Bud Powell, and then of course I'm asking him dumb questions. I said, "Oh, I want to comp just like you," because I was listening to Jackie McLean. Now that connection between those two, man, like Jackie, A.T., Donald Byrd, Walter, Doug Watkins, man, they had a real thing, man. It was almost like they talk about like Miles Davis groups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for a reason. Now that was a group, man. Walter Davis, Donald Byrd, Jackie, those guys were right up there, man. I mean, and so we were talking and we were listening to Bud. I said, "Hey, man, I love the way you comp on swing, swing, swinging, and tipping the scales." And he said, "Oh, man, that's all Bud Powell stuff." And man, I'm like, I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "It says, Kenny Clarke told me that, the comping with the left hand, the snare drum, and bass drum, that's all the language of the master." And the two masters were Charlie Parker and Bud Powell to him. So what he would do was just listen to Bud Powell play piano and listen to his melodies. And then from the melodies, he'd learn how to comp that left hand and bass drum stuff. That was a massive lesson. He wasn't like saying, "This is what I try to do." He says, "This is what I do."
Yeah.
And so when I have lessons sometimes, they say, "Oh, how do you get that comping? I want to learn more rhythm." Well, first of all, the language has already been set by Bud and Charlie Parker. You can't get any higher than that. And A.T. told me directly with Kenny Clarke, if you want to learn if you want to know the language and the rhythm of this music, check out Bud Powell and Charlie Parker. Simple as that. It wasn't like, "Hey, maybe you should do it." It's simple. It's a direct shot, man.
Yeah.
But some people want more than that. Anyways, man, that was just my first lesson. Can you believe how deep it got? I can go on and on. Stop me, Greg. I can go on.
No, I love it. I love it, man.
I know you love your records, man. Hey, man, is it Jackie's Bag?
Yes, okay. Yes, yes. He owns that. He owns that. Yeah.
Philly Joe Jones is God.
Yes.
A.T. thinks he's God, and he's God. A.T. owns that record, bro. Sorry.
Yes, he does. No, you're right about it. You're right about it, man. You're right about it. You already said A.T.'s Delight, Jackie's Bag. My other one is I think it's called ZT's Delight. It's a Turrentine record with Grant Green and Flanagan. Man, that cymbal beat. Gosh. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Jackie's
and a record with Gene Ammons and Richard Wyeth. And they're in he said it was the hardest tune to phrase. Was it Gina da da and then when Gene says and then they start walking and the thing is just right. Oh man. Here's the thing he told me that he really based his cymbal beat off of J.C. Heard. Now,
no kidding.
That's nothing I would never have guessed unless he told me. And when you put on the other Gene Ammons record with J.C. Heard on it, you can hear it. There's like it's straight, but it has this little shuffle feeling to it. It's a very it's ding, 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 and it has like a shuffle feeling, but it's right in there, man. Like no one I've ever heard before, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and cross compare, man. But it was again, man. It was awesome to watch you present on those cats because I can relate to the enthusiasm. But you were here. You got to walk with those giants, as Jimmy Heath said. You got to be beside these cats and hear them up close. if I could get you to name, and I know I'm cheating here, but 2 or 3 masters that you felt the actual vibrations from the drums, as well as like mercurially in the air, who were cats that you actually felt the vibrations as hard as they were, touching the drums, that had that kind of power when you were in the audience?
Well, I'll tell you the most powerful,
Hmm.
and you felt the vibrations before he got on the drums was Max Roach. Now you would see Max Roach. I never saw a guy, Max Roach. I would go down there just to see him. The playing was that was like icing on the top.
Hmm.
The the playing, I mean, the actually just seeing him and the way he'd walk out to the drums, Greg, and like he would take his time. It was almost like he was going to the altar of a church, man. And then his drums were set up perfectly, and then he'd look all around the room, and and then he would look at his drums, and then he'd sit down, and just his posture. And I'd never seen a guy's eyes that you made you think, imagine what this man has seen in his life, man.
Hmm.
As the people he's stared at or the situations he's been in, you can only, I mean, you probably might know some of them, but you can't imagine everything of Max Roach. And you could feel that. And then once he hit the drum, forget about it, man. And then as far as drumming, where you felt it in your bones, man, AT, without a doubt, man. Perfect example, we're playing up at Augie's. Now, Augie's is pre-smoke, and it's just a little dive bar. And the guys like Jesse Davis, young guys were playing there, Antoine Roney, Peter Bernstein, Bill Stewart. And I started playing there Fridays and Saturdays. Now I'm taking lessons with Arthur Taylor. And because I took lessons with him, he trusted me. He knew I was an okay guy. And he came down to see me. Art Taylor wasn't coming in that place without me taking lessons with him. And so we're down there with Cecil Payne and John Orr from Thelonious Monk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're playing this tune called Saucer Eyes. And it's a Randy Weston song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's about when the girls would walk by, your eyes would turn into saucers. That's and
Deep.
it's on a record called Patterns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know
Duke,
the Three Sounds version. I don't know that one. I'll have to look that one up.
well, that's AT too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been playing it for 10 years. And I think I'm cooking on it, man, whatever, playing the melody. And there's lots of rhythm in there. First of all, it starts off, it says, dot, 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 dot. And then says the melody. D, 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 dot, dot, dot. Okay, so AT says, yeah, Cecil, hey, Cecil. You call them because they're from the islands.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Cecil, let's play a little Saucer Eyes. And AT said, it's just the tom, snare drum, bass drum. Boudibon, badabo. But man, the whole crowd stopped what they're doing and just like stared at AT. And he said, the ba 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 ba. Man, he wailed it on the snare drum and floor tom. Now, mind you, I'm just playing time on the hi-hat. D, 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 D. And like that, where this rhythm's going on. He made it like he was like Sonny Payne, Sam Woodyard, all rolled up in one. Bang, bang, dang, dang. The rhythm it smacked you upside the face. It was stunning, man. If I didn't love him so much, he might make you want to quit, man. I mean, really, man. That's that stuff he was talking about. And like rhythm from Bud Powell and the way those guys played melodies, man. Mm-hmm. So him, Max, and without a doubt, man, Roy Haynes is a killer, man. Killer. And they all play with Bird, man. It's not that difficult. As Jamil Masters used to say, really not that difficult, man. Just listen to Charlie Parker.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because they know where to put the bass drum. The bass drum would be so far up you, man. You're like, whiz. And they wait because, think about Charlie Parker's phrasing, man. And it's like so flowing, man. And then they wait to put that bass drum down with Bird. So they've been doing that for 50 years. So when they put that bass drum down, it's just like, wow, man. Wow. That hurts. So those three for sure. And then of course Elvin Jones, but I wasn't. Elvin would make your ribs hurt, but I didn't know him as much as other guys. He seemed to, even though he wasn't, but he just seemed to out of this world for me. It was almost too much. Like I couldn't understand how he could play that great, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I appreciate the insight. Man, when I see you live and when I, hear you on recordings and things, I'm really impressed by your knowledge of song form. It's just like melodies. Even maybe if you don't know the tunes, where the right place is to get in there with the piano player or the horn player or what have you. Your musical wisdom is very impressive, and I'm curious. How do you have a technique for memorizing songs quickly, learning forms quickly? Any advice or knowledge that you could share on copying song form?
Well, I mean, obviously, man, Max Roach sat me down, man, when I was in 8th grade. I went to see a drum master class, and the first thing he said to me is, he was playing the piano. This is 1981, man.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, how do you expect to play the drums when you can't play the piano? He was playing some Billy Strayhorn. And man, I was, I was 8th grade, man. I was looking to play wiffle ball and like, sorry.
Uh-huh.
So he said, you got to listen to piano. So, I mean, I just always listened to the piano's comping. And of course, Arthur Taylor talked about the comping and the drums.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing would have been, see, when I came to New York, I had 2 main people I wanted to play with. And that was George Coleman and Cedar Walker. And so when they played, I was there.
Okay.
And I mean, so when Cedar asked me to play with them, I knew all the tunes, man. I mean, and then once you start knowing something so well, and then you figure out what he's doing, and then they're just they're in your soul, man. So you don't have to. There was never any charts. There was never any rehearsals. It all made sense. It wasn't like no weird 7/4 bar and then go to here and then go there. It just all flowed perfectly. That's why I wanted to be with him, man. It just made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And so my advice would be, like Harold Mavin would say, man, when he went to Chicago, back then, those guys knew everybody's tunes. So Harold Mavin knew all of Ahmad Jamal's music. He knew all of Charlie Parker's music. He knew all of Johnny Griffin's music. He knew all of the Jazz Test music. So when he had a chance to play or audition or sit in, whatever, he knew what was happening. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I just want. Guys today, man, they say, well, it's weird. There's not that many gigs, like groups like that. Let's say Roy Hargrove. Now, if I really wanted Roy Hargrove's gig, I'd show up at his gig every night and be right up in there, man. Mm-hmm. That's what I did with Benny Golson. I mean, you get to play with these guys, you're all over it. Now, as far as memorizing, well, here's another thing, man. Sorry, I'm just getting excited to think about it.
I like this.
Kenny Washington is one of the greatest drummers around, and he did so much for me, Greg, man. He put me on a lot of gigs, and a lot of people got mad at him for putting me on the gigs. And so he got me on a gig with Johnny Griffin, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And my first night, it was, I was just playing the second set of Blue Note, and I'm trying to figure out where he would have gone for that second set. And so it was my first time meeting Griff. Mm-hmm. But yes, Cedar had told him about me, so that cooled him. So there was Griff was cool anyways. Griff was going to be Griff no matter who was playing drums. But Cedar cooled him out. And see, that's what cats did for you back then, man, you know? So I'm going in for the second set, and then Kenny leaves me with about 30 CDs, which God bless him. But he said, now on this CD, you got to listen to this tune, and this CD, you got to listen to this tune. So I know the tunes. And man, Griff just blew up, says, Kenny Washington, you know, blah, blah, blah. We're just up there and swing, man. You know, we don't need all that stuff, man. He might even take your job, man, because don't listen to them CDs, Farnsworth. And so what Johnny Griffin wanted first and foremost was time.
Okay.
Ride simple. When in doubt, just swing hard, man. And that's Harold Mabin. Swing hard. Mm-hmm. So my long-winded advice: just think of Billy Higgins, man. That's why he played with Monk, Ornette Coleman, Cedar, Lee Morgan, Pat Metheny, Charles Lloyd, all any sort of whatever. Because that ride cymbal, man, it was wide and open. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you're so I played with when George Coleman got me on the gig with Pharoah Sanders.
Ooh,
I hadn't
yeah.
Pharoah Sanders that much, but what George says, swing hard, man. Don't let him out like energy you. And so I said, okay, no matter what I'm gonna do, no matter what, I must try to swing hard and not let that energy go down. So that's really the main thing. First of all, if you're swinging hard and you're playing with Abdullah Ibrahim or playing, bro, I mean, who's not going to want that? Right. So, I mean, for the I guess what I would try to wrap it up and saying is, man, listen, and whoever you like, go out and listen to them, and then they know you're going to be in their corner, and always swing hard, man. Always swing hard. As far as like, memorizing stuff, I have to say, I ran into some trouble, Greg. I played with a last minute call with Wynton Marsalis and the big band. They're doing a tribute to Thelonious Monk. Mm-hmm. I was flying home from China, and I can't really play in big bands, but I was thinking, well, okay, Monk, and then me and Wynton like each other, and AT live at Town Hall. So yeah, felt like it's all in my corner. And I thought I could do this, man. I was just thinking about AT. And I got there, and the arrangements kicked my butt, man. Mm-hmm. I said, these weren't the Monk tunes that I remember, man. It was all this stuff. And bro, I was trying to memorize it. I was sweating. And I almost fell apart, man. There was 6 young arrangers that arranged these tunes. And there was so much in it that there was no way I could have memorized it, man. Mm-hmm. I guess you think about like Art Blakey, and he used to sit and listen to the people play it first, and then he could just hear it. That's that Charlie Parker, Billy Eckstine stuff, man. But I wasn't afforded the time to do that, man. So yeah, that's about that.
Sure. No, thank you, man. Thank you for the wisdom. I just a couple of more questions, man. I'm really enjoying this. I want to know about the return to work, man. You've been one of the few that's been out here, in the streets, man, still playing during this pandemic. Thankfully, we've been lifted by your sound and the groups that you've been a part of and that you've led. How do we make sense of all this? Are we returning to work here finally? Have you enjoyed any part of the break? Are you just, chomping at the bit to get back on the road? What are your thoughts? How are you processing the return to working?
Well, fortunately, man, I've learned it the hard way, but I've learned to live day by day, one day at a time, man. So it could be a default. All I'm worried about is my interview with you now, and then got to go to church at 12, and then hopefully see my 3 kids, and then I have a gig tonight with Eric Alexander and David Williams at Smalls. So that's all I'm concentrating on, and then tomorrow, whatever happens. But as far as how the pandemic helped me, it helped me, man. It helped me connect with a lot of people I hadn't connected to, and have conversations with. It helped reassess the whole way I was playing and going about things and slowing down. I always had, when I was taking lessons with the great Alan Dawson, one of the things I remember him saying is slow down, man, slow down. And then with Cedar Walton, he never told you what to do, but I do remember walking to the bar with him once, and man, he would talk to you very quickly and he wouldn't look at you. It was almost like he could see you from the side of his head. And I was thinking, me and him were walking to the bar in Chicago after a set, and I was feeling good, man. And Fonz slow down. He just dropped it on me. And I'm like, what? He says, man, slow down, man. We got all week.
Mm.
Uh, I thought about that, man. And then this thing really, well, slowed us down, man. So I just been thinking about like trying to play myself more. I came to like a real, I did a thing, man, on Max Roach and Cecil Bridgewater gave a interview. I mean, he sent me a video. I didn't realize when I started doing these videos, man, that these no one could last more than 5 seconds. Everything has to be so quick. You know, Instagram's got to be under a minute, man. I'm starting to learn this stuff, this social media.
Mm.
And so, man, Cecil Bridgewater's video on Max was 28 minutes long. And I was like, damn. So no one wants to watch an hour thing on Max Roach. I mean, it has to be like 2 minutes, man. I didn't know that then. And I started listening to it. So I was thinking, how am I going to chop this up to get it down? And the more I listened to it, it's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard about the Max Roach, man. You sit and listen. Now think about that, Greg. That's the first thing Max Roach told me to do is sit and listen. And now I'm doing something on Max Roach and I have to sit and listen. And Cecil Bridgewater talked. He didn't stumble his words. He didn't meander. It was it was like you couldn't have done it a second take like that. And I asked him like, how did you not like stutter or lose track? And he said, man, when you love someone or love something and you're telling it in the first person, you'll never lose your train of thought. And man, it hit me because I was really trying to really like, I would sometimes play like Billy Higgins, or like if you're playing with Cedar, trying to channel Billy Higgins, or like, you know, with Max Roach was in the audience, to try to play like Max Roach. And it always left me feeling a little off because there's no way you possibly could. And I didn't realize what I was doing. I really wasn't speaking in the first person like Cecil was talking about. And this whole break the whole thing has been to learn. Hey, if I'm going to go down now, it's going to go down telling my story. I can't do Billy Higgins because he's perfect. And if I'm trying to do it, you can't do you can't tell his story. And I never knew that, man. I'm 53 years old. I never knew that until now.
Wow.
But that's how I loved him. I saw everything through him, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One more question before I let you go, my friend. Time to Swing was one of my favorite records from last year, man. I'm so glad it came out, and
Thank you.
glad you had a chance to do that. Just as a band leader, you know, as you look forward, are there any plans to, you know, do any more under the, you know, Farnsworth brand, you know, as we emerge out of the pandemic, or you know, talk about, you know, how that record, you know, hit you? Were you pleased with it? I loved it, man. That was great.
Definitely pleased with it because I love Wynton Marsalis, and then I love the way he plays. I love the way he you know, has the blues and everything he does. I love everything about him, man. And the way he phrases matches up with the way I play the ride cymbal. So I've been really close to him ever since the House of Tribe when we made that record.
Good record.
I've been waiting for this, man. So to capture that moment on, you know, for history meant a lot to me. I have to say, it's a weird spot, man, but there's something about like, I played recently with Emmanuel Wilkins and Christian Sands.
Yeah.
And those guys are dealing, man, and they're dealing with like, almost like, well, they're dealing with now, man, now. And man, my mind has been so much like Curtis Fuller passing. It's been so much about my times with those guys. And so I think that the swing was like, not an exclamation point, whatever we call for that, but I need to start looking at what are these guys doing now? Where's the music now, man? It seems like there's a whole different thing going on, man. So I gotta figure that out where I want to go. It's like it's like there used to be a lineage, and it seems like it's taking a different route now. And I don't want to be one of those guys that's stuck in, back in the 50s, the way it happened, man. And you're supposed to do blah, 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 or this is the way it's supposed to go. or yeah, man. But it's very exciting, man. So I gotta figure out what I could do in the now. You know, those guys really kind of opened my eyes, man.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. Bro, I'm gonna get you to hang on just for 60 seconds more. But it's been
Yeah,
my pleasure talking to you, man. We got to get a sandwich or something close to where
def-
you are, man, because I could ask questions all day long, man. You're a walking encyclopedia, man. It's been a blast.
yeah.